Daily trading recap. Let's get after it today. To Christ be the glory on this Wednesday, the 27th of April, 2022. Dollar volume first before we get into anything else. As of an hour, 14 minutes after the close here, NASDAQ has $287 billion volume. NYSE, $402 billion volume. OTC's $1.8 billion volume on the day. Only real one stabby with the equity side of it, going harder a little bit on the future side of it. Session-wide strategy working within 8 minutes of session open, which is the quickest that I think in my back testing and in implementation of the real strategy as well. Incredible how quick that happened. But that doesn't change the factor of the overall equation or the overall time perspective that I'm continuing to look at this trade in its entirety as a months-long trade, not necessarily of, oh, I'm so cool, it happened in 8 minutes. Well, my profit target was on that one, but we'll see if it happens again going into tomorrow and for Friday's session as well, to see if we can find any amount of bounce. It sure doesn't look the most beautiful. Looks like we're just continuing to test these lows here on SPY, so we'll see if there is some support that comes in around this range or if it starts to trend lower for a harder pullback off of that all-time high push that was around 480-ish. Yeah, that little tap to 480-ish there that started this little initiation move there, but it is what it is. 930 strategy also working out well in that first minute, producing like 7 or 8 points in that first minute candle as well. It's always tough to try and see that, just how immediately that price is working there, to think, oh, I could have had so much more for the contracts that I'm already putting that size on now, but keeping myself within the realms of reason and understanding and not trying to force more of it or get too greedy in that aspect on those specific trades and what they've been specifically designed and back tested for, holding myself accountable to that. Also took one little stabby on the MES side for one contract for looking for that intraday move. And, normally I want to take those plays and kind of like 15 minutes after the market opened to see if there's going to be any trend day or any longer term intraday move to kind of set it and forget about it and see if it can produce something awesome with a very nice risk reward, and really, really don't want to be taking any type of losses. I mean, if it comes back down and hits me at break even, okay, I'm fine with it, whatever. I'm not trying to make that my trading strategy, but it's a nice little, it doesn't take too much mental capital away from me, and it actually kind of intrigues me in how the overall index of SPY works more and more each day. And this one works pretty beautifully. I got in as we were continuing to break to the upside here, right above this level on the MES side. Of course, not really. I look at the SPY chart, but then, of course, trade it just on the MES. One contract size, that's enough. That's enough skin in the game for me for that type of points move there. And just dove straight up, which is pretty insane. So sold kind of right in that peak for a 25 little point move there on the MES contract side for a nice little padding to the overall day P&L there. That was all the introduction. I did take, like I mentioned, one little stabby on VIVK. VIVK. Again, another potential morning dump play that I just 100% chose and was disciplined myself to say I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to take this thing short, even though it is producing all the signs and signals of the characteristics that I want to see out of this playbook trade for me. But here I am again, not taking it and actually going to the long side on these ones. I took two little tiny stabbies with 100 shares on this first one and then 50 shares on the secondary one, of looking for that morning dump reversal of how it gets price action comes, reclaims to the back to the upside of VWAP, and then it starts to scare the shorts, and we can get quick little price action, maybe even start to test closer to that initial high of day peak on that perk off of the news catalyst for whatever moves these first screen day plays. Also, just to play a little bit of a hunch as well for the doing a little bit of research and kind of delving into trying to look at any significance or similar denominator in some of these movers, or how some of these specific collection group of tickers moves, if that's based on any similar inside institutional holders or any institution that owns these things. If it's a size of a position that they have, does that influence of how they want to treat these things, or is it the length of time that they've been holding them? Does that influence it? Or if there's never been any real significant move like this with a very nice dollar volume collection within this pre-market and percentage move that way, does that influence anything there? So seeing that there was really no T25 institutional holders on this ticker through dilution tracker, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that frees up the reins a little bit for this thing to act more however it wants to, or just more in the realm of allowing buyers and sellers to function instead of just being kind of out of the sky overhead coming out of nowhere that kind of dilutes what the normal play function is of these charts. Giving that some weight and testing it. Really don't have any hard data on that, but just saying, okay, maybe there's something to that, and maybe we can get that type of reversal that I've been looking for and trying to trade a few of these types of similar charts that way. But again, this one today, not producing that action and cutting losses very quickly, holding myself just very, very short leash for the stops of where my entry is, of thinking that price is holding there, but sure enough, it doesn't, gets beaten down. And then just getting out of the way when it is proving that it is not going to be going the way that my thesis currently is aligned. So yeah, sure enough, beautiful little opportunity covering in pre. Of course, on a lot of these, I want to see it just continue to die off and just really nothing offered during market hours for just continual bleeding death. And I wanted to see this thing tracing back to $2, back to that previous trading day low close. Just continual death. If I'm going to take it short, that's the type of move that I want to see, to be a part of sizing in huge and letting the vast majority of that position just ride all the way down with really not any limited covering and paying myself along the way. I could see myself maybe sizing out a little bit had I gotten short trading that morning dump thesis, but it's still holding decently, it's still holding above where that little low is, so that does concern me to say, yeah, it wasn't the most pristine or beautiful chart, but not all of them are going to be. So it's a little balance and tango of riding your short position and understanding where these things like to find their little morning spikeage and little scary movie tactics of trying to think that it's huge volume coming in to push these things up to new highs, but sure enough, that's really going to be the high for the rest of the day there, and it comes back down underneath VWAP and just does nothingness. Tries to get back to the upside of VWAP, but does nothingness for the rest of the day there. So little scare tactics like that, implementing that in the brain, that sure enough, it's going to, like, there are the black swans that you have to keep yourself accountable to that can just get you in that oh shit moment, but the vast majority of them are those little fake outs, are those little games of chicken of how much pain or how much risk are you willing to take in order to see this thing to fruition. Dangerous game, but that is trading in general. I also want to mention the NKTX. Gosh, this a third day play, tough price action just to even be a part of. It's not like this one has so much crazy dilution or any amount of overhead really that could influence this thing. Just huge, insane volume on that first day and super choppy and just gross to even look at and to try and think about wasting mental capital on. Tough to be a part of. Chris kind of trading it pretty beautifully, and I think the only way to trade these types of tickers is set your stop in the morning, get in the morning, find your position, set your stop, and just forget about it. If it manipulates you and gets you out, okay, then yeah, it's just not even worth the headache to be a part of anymore at that point. But as it even was still producing that headache on that first day, it never really broke that stop. So it still allowed you to collect and be a part of that very nice price action move on that first day and second day as well. A little bit of a rest day holding that same line. But gosh, yeah, just tough to be on this third day, especially too. I was like, okay, sweet, here's volume coming in. We're getting a nice push. We could get the break above this $19 level here. Sure enough, it happens. Of course, that's $20, more of a key psychological level. But okay, $19, another whole dollar level. Get the push above there, but it's kind of choppy, still holding. It looks like it's continuing to just break down, come back closer to VWAP, but oh no, it's holding, and now we actually get another little break here. Not on really huge volume at that point either, and then sure enough, pulls back to VWAP and just kind of stutters into the close there. So interesting to see, or just continue to watch this one, what will happen. In the same way that I would watch it if I had a position, I'm not going to watch it tick by tick or watch it really closely at all, but just, every once in a while keep that ticker on the follow-up watch list to say, oh, hey, what is this one doing? Oh, what levels is it kind of trading at now, and not try to waste any more mental capital on this, because, price action can certainly happen, and there's definitely opportunity. I can say that, but is that worth the amount of energy I know I would need to expend in trying to potentially babysit it or just force my way into a good position to potentially get faked out, stopped out, and then sure enough it reclaims there, and then try to play that game all over again. A lot of factors in that one in trying to find a position now versus still having or holding position from that first screen day versus getting in now in that sense. But yeah, that's where we're kind of at in the market too. He mentioned that in small cap recap of I think he even said Jackaroo was mentioning that on his Instagram of this is one of the harder markets he's seen or been trading in as compared to last summer of 2019. So, of course, I have no context or reference for that as well to say the same statement. But those are the types of things that I don't like to hear or just really don't want to hear, because I know it's going to influence me potentially to say, oh, well, now I can sleep in a little bit more, just take a little bit of time off. But I just don't want to do that for the sake of, I know I want to be putting in more, just regardless of studying time. I'm talking about of putting in the work and always continuing to hold myself to that same type of workload, study load, anticipation for moves, and not just kind of ease myself out, because I know I err on the side of always being ready to ease off, when it should always be I should be ready and willing to pull the trigger and just kind of be anticipating and always kind of blue-balled at these times. As compared to, I know there could be some potential drainage with that on that side too, but that's where I feel like the plays come from, of being ready to pull that trigger but just easing off, and not like sitting back reclining in the chair and then all of a sudden trying to get everything ready to go and then pulling that trigger. It's a much easier to task to just pull the finger off the trigger than having to get everything going, turn on the computer, get everything ready to go and set, and then try to pull the trigger that way. Crossing over metaphors there, but that's the same example. But that is really all I had. Nothing really hard popping on me for the scanners, and just going to continue to study on, continue on, and thankful for it every single day. And I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.